Liam
That's
Neeson
just
right
funny. I
now.
was gonna say I just saw
Here
that.
is
Yeah.
the next topic.
Oh
Next
boy.
topic.
Yes.
Liam Neeson. Bet Nick's gonna love this topic. Salivating.
Well,
Hey, Nick.
off of what Paulie was saying, though, we just found out that he was up for the role of 007 as well.
Well,
But he turned it down.
Sure.
Mm.
My main comments on this, and I find it hilarious. Liam Neeson's great. He just doesn't care anymore. He literally couldn't care less because he's reached a stage in his career where he just does not give a toss anymore. So he had an appearance on Watch What Happens Live on Thursday, or Watch What Happens Live. And Neeson basically was like, look, I don't want a spin-off. I don't care. And he goes, no, I'm not angling for a spin-off. There's so many spin-offs of Star Wars. It's diluting it to me. And
What
it's
would you
taken
do?
away the mystery and the magic in a weird way.
Sorry, what
Which
would
I
you
love
even
that.
do? Because he's too old now to play a prequel spinoff.
Well, but it's not the point, is it? Like because he did the voices anyway, but it's just so
I mean, I guess if you just did a
like,
voice, but yeah,
but
animated
that's
version.
the point. It's that he's he's never he could have been offered a spin-off, maybe. Obviously, he said some pretty. He got cancelled basically not too long ago, and he's sort of slowly creeping back in. But he just doesn't care. He came out recently and called Conor McGregor an annoying little leprechaun as well, which absolutely made me just so funny. Because that guy needs to fuck off as well. He's such a dipshit.
He's coming back.
I literally couldn't care less. Conor McGregor is such an annoying butthole. It's like, how many old men do you need to beat the shit out of before everyone just goes, fuck off, mate? Nick, what do you think about these thoughts? Because I agree with him. There are too many spin-offs. And there are too many spin-offs about the same normal characters that we've already seen and known. Like, I think there's an exception to something like Andor, for instance. I know not everyone likes Andor. I get it. But that's something where you spin it off and you do something better with it. Like the prison stuff, for instance, in Andor, they're literally building the Death Star. Like, that's interesting. It's how those are member berries, but in a not member berry ham-fisted way.
Mm-hmm.
These spin-offs, especially Ahsoka, fucking Ahsoka's in everything, man. And they even like Dave Filoni even toyed with her being the one that was going to train baby Grogu. Like, go away. That's
Filoni's baby.
Well, what do you think? Anyway, you're our resident Star Wars lover. What do you reckon?
I completely agree with him. And it comes down to, Robert Meyer Burnett said something very interesting in our sequel trilogy documentary where he's talking about, once a corporation takes over, the corporation's interests become more important than the individual story that was created by one man in his mind, with merchandising and characters that sell and looking at numbers. And it seems like they are just throwing out so much stuff out there to see what sticks. And then kind of build off of that. And I agree. It's diluting it. I am in the camp of quality over quantity. Originally George Lucas Star Wars, there was like 13, 15 years between the sequels, and then of course you had the Disney sequels. But when Star Wars would come out, it was an event. People went open a night, dressed up. It was a big, huge event, and Disney is now just making it normal running every year thing.
It's a yearly thing.
Yeah, it's not an event, and I think that takes away from the magic. Now, as a fan, I want all the Star Wars I can get, but I completely agree with what he's saying here. And that's why the 90s was really big for Star Wars, because even though there weren't any movies coming out other than the special editions they released, and then of course Phantom Menace in 99, but you had the comics, the Dark Horse run of comics that were good. You had the Timothy Zahn books. You had a lot of the EU books coming out. You had great stories and characters in the video games. The video games for Star Wars was huge in the 90s, and that kind of kept it alive without oversaturating it with tons of different movies and TV shows and all that sort of stuff. There were other outlets for Star Wars content. And I wish Disney would pull back and look at making a more quality product, and then branch out into other things like when they took over and they gave EA the exclusive rights to make Star Wars games. I was like, Star Wars gaming is dead now. And it was the Battlefront was decent. Battlefront 2 was a complete disaster at launch. But we really didn't get a whole lot. They gave us, we got like two or three games, in like a 10-year time frame. Now they're letting other studios and stuff do games, which is good. But yeah, it's too much stuff out there, and like when Kathleen Kennedy came out back in I don't know when 2015 or 2016, whenever it was, and had all the different Star Wars stuff up on the board behind her, and it was just like all these shows, and it's like, holy shit, man, that is a ton of stuff they're doing. And we've only gotten a small portion of any of that. So yeah, I'm in agreement with them. It's getting oversaturated with non-quality stuff, and it is taking the magic away some.
Well, as well, like to just to quickly touch on the Ahsoka element, is that she's included in things which are completely irrelevant and would benefit her not being in. So like Tales of the Jedi, right? Like her 3 episodes were garbage.
The Book of Boba Fett, people were furious that they shoehorned her in those Luke scenes, and we never even got the meeting between the two of them. That's what fans of the Ahsoka character, and of course fans of Luke, that they were wanting to see. They were wanting to see that initial meeting between the two of them. And then when we see them, she's just in there. It's like, oh yeah, we know each other.
Yeah, we're cool. We hang out.
When did this happen? How did that meeting go? So again, it's just they shoehorn a lot of stuff in there. They put too much stuff out. It's not good quality, in my opinion. So yeah.
So in other words, you agree with Liam Neeson. You agree with Liam Neeson?
Yeah.
Star Wars has been dead for me for a while.
Yeah. And that's the case with a lot of people.
Yeah, massively. Tom?
Oh no, like at this point I've had nothing but apathy for Star Wars. I've had my whole divorce with it. I chalked the whole thing up to being like the original films are that great love you had, that high school romance, and then the prequels were you thinking you were going to get back together, and then you realize it just wasn't as good as you thought it was. And the sequels were, you're older, you're more mature, you think you're more responsible, you think things are going to be better this time, you can give it one last shot. Then you realized it was just worse than it ever was before, and it was just a whole big charade, and this bitch catfished your ass. So to me, at this point, I had to just like divorce myself from it, literally, like just cut and dry. It's like, it's sad to see it go. And we've gotten to the point kind of with the Alien thing earlier where we have, less good Star Wars than we do bad anymore. So you get to a point when you're like that, where I'm just like, is it really worth harboring a love for a franchise where I only like 2, 3, maybe 4 movies tops? Right? Yeah, like, I mean, it's like that I would actually watch on any regular basis. Like I used to watch the Star Wars films every year, if not multiple times a year. It's gotten to a point where I've really, really kind of just backed off from them. It's just,
You reminded me of something. And again, this comes from a kid who actually saw the original run of the films in the theaters. I mean, I was in the theater in 77. So, Star Wars was my security blanket, right? I had them on VHS tape the very moment you could possibly own them. Right. And then I bought the collector set the very moment that it came out, and so on and so forth. So, and that was my thing I could always go back to. and watch, right? I'd watch a few things like that. Star Wars was one of them. Star Trek 2 was something that I'd, watch on the regular. And you would go back and, if you were sick in bed, until the Lord of the Rings films came out, and then that they would made it into the sick in bed for a week. That was like part of the thing that you would do, right? Watch the stuff that you love. And now, I other than the first 3 films, right? There's really, which, episodes 4, 5, and 6, whatever you want to call them, I completely lost touch with it. And I think a lot of fans are there. And apathy, Tom, you chose that word properly. And I can still revel in the things that were good. That's why I like hanging out with Nick and Coach. But, good's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Poignant way of putting it.
Yeah.